Hello, we are live here, and today I have a special guest, Javonna MaeRhys, and she is a former principal coming from a high stress job who found the courage to leave and move to Brunei and teach there. And her story is incredible. And you're going to learn a lot from her. She's going to share with us 5 reasons that you might want to consider teaching abroad because it's been a really amazing experience for her so far. So I'm going to bring her on in a minute and have her introduce herself. But right now, I see that we have a live viewer, and I want to make sure that you can hear me. So if you can, let me know in the comments where you are joining from. All right. So I'm excited to talk about this because this is something that I know very little about. And I think it's a great way if you're considering making a move to a foreign country. It's a great opportunity to consider to get there. So don't see any responses yet. So we're going to just go from there. We're going to go, Latina Harris, you can hear, I'm from North Carolina. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining live. It's early there. All right. Well, as I said, today we're going to talk about 5 reasons why you should consider teaching abroad. My name is Patricia Brooks, and I am an American expat living in the south of France. I am the author of 2 books, soon to be 3, and I am the creator of the Carefree Expat Incubator, where I help people who are ready to start the next chapter of their lives, go from feeling uncertain and fearful of making a move abroad to finding that confidence and courage so they can finally get there. And today, my special guest is Javonna MaeRhys, and she has an interesting story, but I'm going to let her introduce herself right now.
Hey, thanks, Patricia, for having me. My name is Javonna MaeRhys, and as Patricia said, I'm a former high school principal in Texas, and I decided to take the leap after thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. I gave up that 6-figure job, sold my house, and moved my family to Brunei, which is on the island of Borneo. And I'm back in the classroom teaching. And I'm also helping other educators, teachers, principals, counselors discover that they can take their passion for teaching abroad.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that, Javonna. Patty Palmer has joined us from Maryland. Welcome, Patty. So tell me a little bit more about what it's like to have finally made the move. How long have you been in Brunei, and what is it like to have actually made that move?
Well, Patricia, it's been about 8 months now, so it's still new. Um, and what I can say is that I am so happy doesn't cover it. I feel it's like a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders. I have dropped a load that I didn't realize that I was carrying, and I am able to have a lot of space here to get back to being the best version of myself, which I had kind of lost back in my previous iteration back in the States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that feeling of lightness, of being the who you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can definitely relate to that. It was something that you couldn't necessarily know that you were carrying until you were out of that situation. So congratulations on making that big leap, despite fear, despite doubt. You actually did it, and today you're here, and you're going to share 5 reasons why you should consider teaching abroad. So let's jump right in. And see what those are. So, what is the first reason?
Well, the first reason that people should consider taking their education career abroad is time. Okay. All of us feel like we don't have enough time. And whether you're a teacher, whether you're a principal or you're a counselor, schools serve so many needs, and there's such there's so much paperwork, there are so many interventions, so many things that need to be done to support students that a lot of times you just don't have time. And there's no time built into the day in the United States, really, um, to do all of the extra things that aren't related to actually teaching students face to face. And so, for example, if you're teaching in the United States, typically you are teaching 7 or 8 50-minute, 55-minute classes. And you might get a 30-minute lunch and maybe one 50-minute planning period. And so you're taking papers home if you're a teacher and grading papers. You're at football games trying to support kids, but also grading papers at the same time. You're with your family watching a movie on the weekend, but also grading papers at the same time. And currently in my situation, my schedule is such that I teach on most days 7 to 2. I have a couple of days that end at 12:30, but at most I'll be teaching 3 50-minute classes, and the rest of that time is for me to plan, do professional learning, and things of that nature, grade papers. And so I'm not taking anything home. So not only am I not bringing my work home with me, I have time to develop myself professionally on the job.
Nice, nice. And I was smiling when you said, you know, being at a game, supporting, grading papers. I remember my mom was a teacher, and she taught elementary school. And I remember when I got into high school, she's like, pull up a chair. I got some papers you can help me grade. So, yes, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. Um,
Yeah. Certainly. And, as a principal, you have, other duties that you've got to worry about outside of the school day. So, anything that happens in the building, whether it is during the school day or not, is your responsibility. And so if a fire alarm goes off or something has happened at the building, you're having to go to the building to check it out, to meet the people there, to make sure it's all okay. You're having to go to those football games, but also all of the other events as well. Board meetings. You are working in the summer. Teachers get most of the summer off, but typically principals will get 2 weeks in the summer. And so you're preparing for the next year. You're interviewing people, trying to fill positions, and there's just no time to be with your family, be with yourself, to even, take a breath. Patricia, I'll tell you, there was one point that I was on muscle relaxers because my neck, I was under so much stress that the tendons in my neck, the doctor said, felt like bones. I was like this. I couldn't even turn my neck. And then in the spring, during testing season, I would get an eye twitch every year. Every year, I would get an eye twitch at a certain time of year.
Must be testing season, right? I got this eye twitch. Wow, so time that's huge, right? Because that creates stress if you don't have enough time, if you're being pulled in all directions. I think that's a really good one. And so what do you do so you've got time to do all you need to do for the classroom during the workday. What do you do with the extra time that you have that you're not grading papers, right?
I have time to read, Patricia. I have time to watch films. I have time to, my husband and I joined a jungle hiking group. And so we will sometimes be hiking in the jungle with a group of expats once a week. I am doing yoga. I am doing all the things, Patricia, that enrich my life and bring me joy. I actually have the time to do those things.
That that sounds worth it, for just number one, just number one. We're going to jump into number two in just a second, but France Bound has joined us. She's watching from Nice and she's going home tomorrow, but she will return. Welcome, France Bound. We're just talking about 5 reasons you might want to consider teaching as a way to move abroad. First one was time. You have more time. What is the second one, Javonna?
The second one is kind of related to the first one, but I have 20 years of experience in education, and half of that time was as a classroom teacher where I taught creative writing and English, journalism and newspaper, because I was a print journalist before I got into education. And when you become an administrator, and even if you're not, you just kind of lose the passion sometimes to be in the classroom because so many things overshadow it. The paperwork, the behaviors, all of these things take away from the reason that you got into education originally. But moving abroad and having that time and being in a different structure has reignited my love for education. I have been able to experience so much joy being in the classroom with students because I'm not having to deal with so many of the things that I dealt with back in the States in terms of not having enough support, with having to deal with, certain behaviors. And don't get me wrong, kids are kids everywhere. I teach year 9 and they can be goofy and, but for example, when I walk into the classroom, the kids stand and I say, good morning. They say, good morning, teacher. And Brunei is a Muslim country. And so then they do a short prayer. And then I say, be seated after that. And then they're like this, ready to learn. It's like I don't have to pull teeth to get them to pay attention. They're excited to be there. They're engaged. They're asking questions about their mistakes because they want to improve. Walking through the highways is a chorus of, good morning, teacher. Good morning, teacher. Hello, miss. And, sometimes kids will run you down because they want to carry your bags.
Wow.
It's.
Yeah, it sounds very different. So there's this reignition of your love of education, right? And that's in part because there is an appreciation and a respect, right? That you didn't necessarily always see when you were teaching and as a principal. Share with me a little bit more about the passion. I mean, so there's the engagement of the students, but what is it that you were passionate about that now you have relearned that you were passionate about?
Well, it's as I said, it's related to the time because I am a lover. I'm a hoarder of information, Patricia. If there is a framework, if there is a worksheet, if there is a project, I'm one of those people who has all of the things. They're all in folders, and those folders are within folders, and so on and so forth. And so my passion for working with curriculum, for creating experiences with students has been reignited because I actually have the time to craft those learning experiences for students and then to go back and tweak them and improve them. And it's just been such a joy.
Yeah. Having the time to be able to create those experiences that will help the students learn. And I think that makes all of the difference in somebody learning something and enjoying learning, and somebody I gotta be here, right? And it's a grind, and I'm just doing a ditto and whatever. I mean, it makes all the difference. So
yeah. And the kids pick up on that energy. If you are just phoning it in, then they're going to match that energy. And if you are excited and you're creating experiences that are geared towards their growth and learning and challenging them, they're going to meet you where you are.
Yeah. So Patty has this to say: the readiness of students to learn makes a big difference. Kudos to you on finding that essential component to educating willing learners. Yes, thank you, Patty, for sharing
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, and I think that the passion has been reignited for you, and in that there is a feeling of empowerment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would certainly agree with that.
yeah,
I would certainly agree with that. In fact, I was just having a conversation with a colleague today about that very thing, about feeling empowered to do the things that are truly best for kids. And it's not just lip service. You
mhm.
truly have the opportunity to do the things that are best for kids.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's, I mean, I think if you're in education and you don't feel appreciated or respected, or you don't feel empowered, this, teaching abroad could be an avenue to get some of those values honored.
Hmm. Certainly. Definitely. I know it has been for me
Yeah,
and for many other people that I've worked with in various capacities.
yeah, good, good. So what's the third reason that people should consider teaching abroad?
The third reason is peace of mind. We all know in the United States that sometimes schools are not the safest places. And just living in general in the United States is not always the safest place for you to be. And so, working in the United States, I had been physically assaulted. I had been punched in the stomach in the last school year. I had to break up a 7 boy brawl, and I was in a high school, so these are young men that I'm having to hold to keep from fighting each other. We constantly had police on our campuses, and this wasn't an urban location. This wasn't. It was a suburban location. It's the state of the United States in education right now, and so it's got to the point that our school board voted to have a secret person on campus who could carry a gun just in
Mhm.
case there was gun violence. And so moving away, and especially moving here, I don't have that fear at all. I feel safe, and I'm here with both my husband and my 14-year-old son. I don't have to worry about my son, my black son, kicking a ball in someone's yard and getting shot for going to retrieve it. I feel safe, and I have that peace of mind here when we're out. We have a sultan here in Brunei, and we arrived the day of his birthday. And so there are all these celebrations. And there's a night market here that goes pretty regularly. And my husband, not too long ago, we were walking in the night market, and he said, typically back home when we're out, I always have this low grade stress and tension in preparation for something happening and me having to protect us. And he said, I just realized I don't feel that. Like I feel light. I feel like I'm not constantly looking at every movement out of my peripheral vision, and I can just be. And it's the same here. Like I feel completely safe.
Mhm.
And it's such a Brunei especially is a society that's very non-aggressive, and so you even have to be careful about raising your voice because people are kind of like, oh, they don't do that. They don't even honk their horns. And we came
Ah,
from Texas where people are like, honking and getting out of the car and everything. And you have to be about to have a collision for someone to honk a horn at you. That's just how things are here. And
wow.
so there's just, again, that weight is lifted, and it's just an overall peace of mind because I feel safe mentally and physically.
Yeah, yeah, and that you can let your guard down a bit. You don't have to have that hyper vigilance that I think many Americans have and don't even know it,
Right. Yeah.
which creates stress, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Certainly.
So peace of mind is a big one. Now you're in Brunei. Do you do you have experience, or do you know people who are teaching in other places, and can you share what their thoughts are or experiences are, with peace of mind and the safety aspect?
Yeah. I have friends who have taught in the Middle East. I've worked with people who are in Korea, parts of Africa, and no matter where they go, they report the same peace of mind. Not Safety is a big thing. The issues that educators deal with in terms of safety of their person, of their emotional state of being, they don't deal with elsewhere. Now, in terms of time, it all depends on the school, right? Because there are public schools, there are international schools where people pay big money, and if you're the higher you go up that pay scale, the more they're going to expect of you. And so there are some places where you are, tutoring after school, and there's a lot to do. But for the most part, depending on where you choose to go, the time, the peace of mind, just really lets you connect with that love of teaching. Sometimes people come in, and if it's their first post, they will think, okay, I've got to get in there and have this classroom management down, and I've got to get these kids in line, and we have to tell people it's not really like that here. You just calm
Calm down.
down.
Yes. Chill.
I know you feel like you just came from a war zone, but it's not like that here.
All right. So here's a question from Patty. What encounters, if any, do you have with educators for adult learners? Are they experiencing the same or similar as you?
In terms of working with them, no, they're not experiencing. They're not experiencing the issues that you experience with young students. If you're talking about college age and older, typically you're not going to have any of those issues that you would be experiencing in the United States. From my friends who teach at the college level, it's pretty much the same. The best part about teaching at the college level or teaching adults abroad is the fact that you have access to the travel, right? So you're getting to do the thing that you want to do, and you're getting access to travel. So, for instance, I do have a friend here who teaches at one of the local colleges. And because of where we're situated, it's very easy for us to travel. I've been to Malaysia a couple of times. I'm going to Bali in a couple of months. Japan is there. China, Australia is a 6-hour flight away. And so, as an educator of adults, the plus side is, and I'll talk about that when I talk about finances, because that is definitely a plus of moving abroad. In addition to having some more financial space in a lot of ways, you also have more space to do that travel that you want to do. I hope that answers your question, Patty.
And if it doesn't, just post
Ask
another one. All right. So number 4, what would you say number 4 is?
Number 4 is social connection. For me, I am naturally an introvert. And so as a teacher, you've got to be on. As a principal, you've got to be on. And so I was so on, so on with everything I was doing during the day, and then outside of the day, and having to go to board meetings and hearing things discussed that I couldn't really react to because of my position. All of that takes a toll. And so when I had time to connect socially, I did not have the energy to do so. And so free time for me, a lot of it back home was, first of all, it was decision paralysis because I had so many things that I could be doing. And all of a sudden, oh, I've got free time. What am I going to do with my free time? I've got this, infinity list of movies that I want to watch. I've got, this person I need to catch up with, this person. And so you end up doing nothing. But being here and having the time, feeling safe, has allowed me to build a community of people and to have the energy to connect with them. So I'm always meeting other expat teachers for coffee, for dinner. My husband and I, we host parties. I would never have the energy to host any any parties at my house back home or go to parties. And just be out and mixing with people and having a great time with it. And so, it kind of going back to what we said earlier about reconnecting with an earlier version of yourself. I feel like I'm reconnecting with a version of myself who is lighter and freer and more open to connection because I don't have all of these other things weighing me down.
Mhm. It almost, as you talk about that, being an introvert and, needing time to recharge, but then, so then if you're going all of the time and on all of the time, when you're at home, you need to plug in and you're not
Mhm.
thinking about, hanging out with people. You're just like, leave me alone, right? So,
Mhm.
but it makes me think that, and maybe you were, that it sounds like a burnout, or you were close to burnout.
Oh, certainly, certainly. Yeah, and that's one of the things when I'm talking to people that we talk about, and I think that's one of the main reasons why people start looking at teaching abroad, because there are plenty of people who are moving out of teaching, they're transitioning to another career, and that's fine, or they're stopping working altogether. But a lot of people in education truly love their career and they feel like it's a calling. And so it's not that they want to change professions. They start to think, rightly so, that it's the location. It's not the profession that you need to leave, it's the location.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think r realizing that sooner, rather than later, when you still have, when you're not burnout, right, can give
Mhm.
you, can save so much of you before
Right.
you lose you, right?
Right.
Getting back to the your former self, I mean, that's amazing. Um, yeah, I think sometimes we don't recognize how much, because it's like a fish in water, right? They're in water, they
Mhm.
don't really know they're in water, and so until you take them out of it, right?
Mhm.
So, um, that social connection, being able to have the time and energy to connect and to tap back into the your prior you, and how would you describe that younger or I don't say younger version, but the you were before you got stressed being in education?
Oh yeah, it's definitely the younger version of me. As has been like a thing that's been, 10, 12 years in the making. I came from a military family and we traveled a lot when I was a child. I lived in Germany, went to school in Germany when I was really young. And so moving abroad was always on my list. Um, and to your question, describing myself when I was younger, it was having an openness to people, an openness to experiences, a lightness. I'm naturally a person who smiles a lot. I'm naturally a person who is, optimistic, is who sees the solution in issues. Um, and I became a person who smiled less, who opened up more, who was more closed off because I had to conserve what little energy I had to put out this fire or this fire or this or this or this fire. And so when you're on the cusp of burnout or in burnout, it's because you've been ignoring the voice. We all have that voice that's telling us
Mhm.
what we should do. And, as women and, especially as Black women, we buy into that I'm strong thing a little too much sometimes. And so if there is something that makes us feel vulnerable or something that makes us feel like maybe we need to take a break or have some help, we push that down because we gotta go, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it, right? And so you keep doing that for a number of years, and then next thing you know, you're on muscle relaxers because you can't move your neck and you got an eye twitch.
Yeah. I think that, all of the things that you have said so far, point to self-care,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
self-care. And we think we have a career. We're not necessarily thinking that we're neglecting ourselves, but in some ways, sometimes we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and self-care is not, I know as teachers we're beholden to the school calendar, and sometimes it's difficult to give ourselves self-care during the school year. We look at getting our nails done or, going to get a massage, but self-care is just so much more than that. It's being connected with who you are and who you want to be, and giving yourself just space to connect with that and to be grateful and to be curious about possibilities. And when you're burning the candle at both ends, you can't be curious about anything. You can't, be zen about anything, because everything is an emergency and you are trying to put out all of these fires.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So let's move on to number 5.
Mhm.
What's the fifth reason?
Number 5 is the financial aspect. That's the question that people always ask me, especially considering that I was a principal. I did have, quote unquote, a good job, making good money. Um, so the financial aspect, and again, it depends on where you go because packages are different at different schools. But for the most part, in Asia and in the Middle East are the best packages. And when you sign your contract, most of the schools will pay for you and your family to fly over. They will give you a spending allowance when you arrive. For us, we had a rental car given to us for the first month that we were here. Um, and then an interest-free loan when we wanted to, if we wanted to use it to purchase a car. We get a bonus at the beginning of each year. We get
At the beginning of the
a
year?
well, for my school, we run January to November because we get the entire month of December off. We also get 3 weeks in August and 3 weeks in March and April. We have several 4-day weekends, so we get a lot of time off. So we get a bonus at the beginning of our contract. And then after you've been there for a year, most of the companies will give you money to fly home for Christmas, you and your family. So you get those flights covered. And then additionally, most of them will give you mortgage-free housing. So some places, some countries, you have a nice apartment. Me, for instance, we're living in a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom house for free. so, so
A
even
castle.
though yeah, so even though I'm making less on paper, I have no mortgage, which was sucking up a lot of my money back home. The electricity bill is very low. The water bill is like $5. It's everything is so cheap here, comparatively speaking, that we're able to save money in a lot of ways, even though I'm making less money on paper.
Yeah, that's incredible. 5 bedrooms, five bathrooms.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess
On a hill.
the question I have is all of these things just seem like too good to be true, right?
Mhm.
Why is it that you, as you say, it depends on where, right? The location, it depends on the school, all of that.
Mhm.
But why does it seem to be that education seems to be more respected? overseas?
I can only chalk it up to it's just a difference in culture. I think for a lot of the countries that I'm in, they're very family oriented.
Mm.
Um, and not just family oriented, there's, multiple generations living together. And so when you have multiple generations living together and the younger generation is with the older generation and they're taught to respect their elders, I think there's something to that. A lot of the houses here are huge like this because they have huge families and they stay together.
Mhm.
And so the students very much want to um, represent their family well.
Mhm.
And so when they are interacting with you, they, in their mind, it's not just them interacting with you, it's their entire family interacting with you. And so there's just that level of respect. It's what they're taught and it's what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Nice. Nice. So you shared these 5 reasons. And, somebody, what if somebody is curious about how do you get started? I mean, I think there are two questions I have here because people who are
Mhm,
already in education, there's probably one path. And people who may be thinking, well, I'm not a teacher, but I would like to teach abroad. There's probably
mhm,
another path.
mhm.
Um, what are, how does somebody get started?
Yeah, getting started, if you are already a certified teacher, your first step is going to be to get, I would advise, a TEFL certification, teaching English as a foreign language. And there are different places where you can get those, different price points. But for someone who's been teaching for a while, you can get one of those certifications on Groupon for $40, $50 as a self-paced course. And I say for someone who's been teaching for a while because in many places, we have so many immigrants in the United States now, a lot of places require their teachers to be ESL trained already. Or if they're not certified ESL teachers already, they receive training to help students from other countries who, for them, English isn't their first language. So a lot of teachers in the United States, they already have the skills that will be taught in a TEFL course. But having that certification is something that international schools use just to ensure that you do have the skills, the framework to know how to teach to students who English is not their first language, even if you're not going to be an English teacher, because this is not just for English teachers. This is math, this is theater, this is PE, everything. It's the counselor, it's the assistant principal, everyone. They want to make sure that you have those strategies and those skills to be able to communicate with those students. So that would be the pathway for someone who is already a certified teacher. And for someone who is not a certified teacher, if you are degreed, I would suggest that you take one of the more intensive TEFL certification courses. There are some that are a little pricier because they have a virtual component or they actually have a kind of an internship where you work to find a place where you can volunteer to work with students and put together a portfolio showing that you have that face-to-face experience. There are several options there as well, but it's kind of the same path. If you don't have teaching experience, it's just a matter of how intense that TEFL certification should be to show potential employers that you're serious about moving into this field.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, I do have another question, and if you have questions, now is your time to ask because Javonna is a wealth of information. So don't miss out on this opportunity. But my next question has to do with, oh, I just lost my train of thought.
I've been there.
I'm getting old.
Y'all are.
No, I got it. I got it. All right. So you mentioned that in before we came on live, how you were thinking about teaching abroad for a while. I don't know
Mhm.
how long that was, but when you were single before you got married, right? You were a single mother and you were thinking about, you know, teaching abroad, but you didn't, and you didn't make it happen. What held you back, and what would you recommend for somebody who is thinking, ah, I want to do this, but it feels really scary?
Well, so I was married, and my partner at the time was not interested in moving abroad.
Mhm.
And then we became divorced, and it was just my son and I wasn't receiving any help from my ex husband. And I thought, okay, now is the time. I've wanted to move abroad. I can take my son, we can have these experiences. And then almost immediately after the divorce, my life improved. And so I earned my first promotion and became an academic principal. And so almost immediately, my financial situation improved. Clink, clink, golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
And so I'm making more money. And once you go through that divorce, you're kind of in survival mode, especially when you've got a child and you're trying to make sure Maslow's hierarchy of needs, everything is okay. And so I was just achieving and I was on this pathway. And I would think about teaching abroad occasionally, so much so that I was actually teaching English online. I was teaching English online to students in China. And then I switched to start teaching adults all over the world English who were looking to increase their job prospects. And so I was doing that while I was an assistant principal, while I was working up the ladder, because I just wanted to keep that connection to the possibility of moving abroad and talking to people from different cultures and just having that experience. And then I started thinking, okay, I know I can be an assistant principal abroad. So that's what I should start doing. I'm going to start working on that. Bam, I became a principal. More money, more, bought a house, all of that. And so it was kind of on the back burner again. And I thought, okay, I guess I'll just wait until retirement. I've got 10 years until I retire. My son is going to start high school soon, or I'll just wait until he graduates from high school. I'll wait, I'll wait, I'll wait. That's what we all do, right? We'll wait to start living. And so then I got remarried, and my husband and I, he was on board. We'll wait until you retire, we'll wait until your son graduates. But with all of the changes that happened in schools, especially after COVID, and just the safety issues, both physically and emotionally, we just had a conversation and came to the conclusion, like, what are we waiting for? Like,
Mhm.
what are we waiting on?
Mhm.
I'm not concerned about what other people, think in terms of giving up this good job and you were successful. Why would you do this? Why would you throw it all away? Or, why would you go off somewhere else? I wasn't concerned about any of that. I was concerned about finally being able to breathe and to have the experience that I wanted to have. And luckily, my partner, my husband, works remotely. So I know for people who are married and have a partner with a career, it may not be, it's a difficult conversation to have, but luckily that was something that wasn't a barrier. He said, wherever you go, I go. I work remote, so here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think fear is a big reason to delay and not make it happen, but you've got something to help people think through that fear?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I think, Patricia, on its face, it's you make a resume, you make a cover letter, you put it on a website, and you field offers. But it's not that easy. It's just like people who want to lose weight. Everyone knows what to do. You know what to do. But the thing that I help people with is I help them work through those mindset issues, the fear, And, honestly, I think about me back in, 10, 15 years ago as a, single mom and wanting to move abroad and not making the move because there was fear, there was uncertainty. I didn't see anyone who looked like me who was doing it. And had I had someone who had already been there, who I could relate to, who was an accountability partner, a mentor, who knew what to look for in terms of looking at those contracts and who's got the best offer and how do I make a community when I get to this place and will it be safe? That's the thing that I really support people with because it's not just a job change, it's a whole entire life transformation when you take your education career and you move abroad. And it's a lot. It's not just a job change. It is
Yeah,
a
it's not just applying and getting on a plane and yeah. And so
yeah.
I've posted your this um, how what's stopping you addressing the
Mhm.
top 5 fears of teaching abroad. So that's something that you think could help you. Definitely, go to that link and download that because I'm sure it's going to help you move forward with your
Mhm.
plans. We've got some questions here. Junket to 3000 asks, what is the hiring process like? How long is the usual second interview day?
Okay, that's a great question. Typically, it is the hiring season usually starts in November for the following year. If you're looking at a teaching position, if you're looking at an administration position, it's usually a year ahead. It's a year lead time. So once you've gotten your resume streamlined for international positions, because there's a certain streamlining process you want to do. And once you get that cover letter the way that it should look and you upload it, after you get that first interview, there is usually a second panel interview where they're going to, have several people, just like in the States, talk to you to kind of assess your reasons for wanting to leave the whatever country you're in and your experience working with students. For me, it was about from beginning to end, beginning meaning I was contacted, and ending meaning I had my contract about 4 months.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
because keep in mind that in addition to the hiring, the interviewing part, there's the visa, and a reputable school, reputable company is going to pay for your visa. There are schools out there that will ask you to pay for your flight and they'll reimburse you, or pay for your visa and maybe they'll reimburse you or not. And that's what I help people with, is to kind of steer away from that and to find the best package where they're going to cover all of those things for you.
Mhm. Yeah, great. Junket, hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, uh, please post again. All right.
Mhm.
And then Natina has a question. Um, Congratulations. Thank you. Um, I feel a peace of mind and safe while I'm abroad. Too is an
Mhm.
ESL instruction program at Wake Tech. Saw. I,
A Brunei YouTube doc. How's the
okay.
weather? So the weather in Brunei is, we're on the island of Borneo. It's a rainforest. It is typically 75 to 85 degrees, but because of the humidity, it usually feels like 95 to 100. And it rains, it rains quite a bit. But it's a quick rain and then the sun comes out. We have the most beautiful orange, pink, purple sunsets and sunrises. Again, we're a Muslim country, and so there's a call to prayer that you hear. And when you're looking out, in the sky and seeing all those beautiful colors, and you're hearing, that sound, it's just a peaceful, calming experience. My husband and I sometimes will sit on one of the two patios that we have in this 5 bedroom, 5 bathroom house we live in, and just enjoy the sunset and enjoy the sounds of those prayers.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're talking about the rain, it's raining a lot. I just picture this lush green, right? That's
Mhm.
that's what the image comes up for me.
Yeah,
And Junket says it sounds beautiful.
yeah, it is
Um,
beautiful.
and then Patty has a question. Is there a space or need for health educators?
Patty, I think that there certainly is. Again, anything that we have in the States in terms of education needs, is here. So for the school that I'm at or the company that I work for, I'm working for the public schools here. There are two international schools here, two big international schools. There's a couple of colleges. And the international schools, especially, they have, psychology teachers. They've got, all manner of teachers. And so you can certainly look at different websites, and that's one of the things that I help people with is once we narrow down what type of teaching position or positions you want to apply for, we look at places that have those options.
So good. Thank you. So,
And Patty, actually, I'm not sure what your background is, but I was recently helping someone who is trained as a nurse who was wanting to move abroad and teach for an additional stream of income. And even though she didn't have a teaching degree, because she was trained as a nurse, she had several options to teach the sciences in different places.
great. Patty says she's in nursing.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so there you go. All right. So if you have questions, any more questions, go ahead and type them in now because we're going to wrap up in just a minute. I do want to hold on. I do want to ask you a little bit more about what you offer. You're saying that you help people, help educators make this move, and it's not all about the administrative, but it's more about a lot of it is a mindset and
Mhm.
and the other stuff that people don't think about. So what is it
Mhm.
that you offer people, and
Yeah.
how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the first step is scheduling a clarity conversation where I, ask about what your needs are and what you're looking to do.
Mhm.
If we're a good fit, then I offer you my Dream Abroad package, which is a 5 session coaching package where we first start out with figuring out what is your vision for moving abroad. It includes an assessment to ascertain your strengths and to ascertain what your desires are in moving abroad. And then from there, we move to looking at a resume cover letter audit to make sure that you're presenting yourself in the way that you want to be presented. And then we move on to looking at a transition plan that includes things like the financial planning, the nuts and bolts of if you have a house to sell or rent, and healthcare, things of that nature. And then we move on to the social aspect. I help you create a connection on the ground before you get to where you're supposed to be, or where you're going. And then we talk about mentorship and how to make sure that you're successful in that position. We also take a look at some of the things that you might not expect or be prepared for, because there are always those things. It's not all rainbows and sunshine. If you're coming from America, there are some things that you have to get used to when you are moving abroad. And that might include, how are you going to bank? How is banking different? What is the telephone situation? Does everyone do things by WhatsApp? And so we talk about those ins and outs. But by the time we get through that 5th session, you are ready to go. And for those of you who are interested in sign up for that clarity call and decide to come on with me, if you do sign up within 24 hours of our clarity conversation, I'm offering a bonus session that you can use within 90 days of our last session to help you with goal setting, to help you with additional interviewing practice and things of that nature.
Yeah, it sounds really comprehensive, really. And you start where I start, with that vision, right? And why you're doing this thing, because I think that's so important. But then you've got all of the other aspects covered. So definitely, if you're considering, teaching abroad, and you feel like you need some help with that, reach out to Javonna, because I know that her program is solid. All right. Now, I don't see any other questions, so we're gonna wrap up.
I
But
do, if you don't mind, I'd like to say something
Mhm,
that wasn't mentioned with any of the questions.
mhm.
That my son is thriving here. For those of you
Oh,
who are coming and bringing children, um, you have to know your child. Moving abroad is not for everyone's child, right? But my son is thriving. He was a band student. He's still able to be a band student here. He has access to so many extracurricular activities. He's in a mindfulness course. He's taken archery. He's taken karate. He's taken Malay enrichment. He's learning the local language. And he's getting to experience being around people from around the world. He's got a friend from Ireland, another one from Australia, and he's just making all of these connections that he wouldn't be able to make. And he understands the level of safety that he has here as well, because he had some unfortunate experiences back in the States. And so
mhm.
he really appreciates being in a place where there aren't fights at school. The kids aren't interrupting the teacher. The teachers can teach and he can learn. So for those of you who are concerned about your kids, they can thrive abroad and they can do all the things and more that they're doing at home.
Yeah. So don't let that be a fear that, yeah,
Mhm.
that's a very good point. We got one more question. I go back and this is from Natina. I go back and forth to do it because I've been told it's best to gain experience at home front first. I have a BS and no teaching experience. I work in sleep medicine. So experience is key.
Experience is always good. However, as I said earlier, if you don't have any teaching experience, I would suggest you take a more intensive TEFL certification. And so your TEFL certification might be one that includes some sort of teaching experience or some kind of portfolio and some face-to-face instruction.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So it's possible.
Yeah, definitely possible.
Great. Great. Well, this has been a really informative session with you. I do want to share that if you are looking to move abroad and not looking to teach abroad, but you happen to be on this call, I do have a program called the Carefree Expat Incubator that helps single women who are ready to move through their fear, self-doubt, uncertainty so that they can finally stop wanting to make that move abroad and finally take that leap so that they can experience a lot of the things that Javonna was talking about, that peace of mind and that lightness that we don't necessarily even know we are experiencing, and it causes us to want to be someplace else. I help them to move through all that through my program that is group coaching as well as an online curriculum. And if you're interested in learning more about that, definitely go to my calendar and schedule some time for us to talk, and we can see where you are, what's holding you back, and how our working together might help you. So just wanted to share that with you. And that link is thecouragecatalyst.com/future expat. So just wanted to share that with you just in case you are not in the education realm and you're looking to move abroad. Definitely schedule some time with me. Javonna, this has been an incredible conversation on many levels because the information that you shared is enlightening. I mean, I didn't know a lot of the things that you just shared with me, even when we were talking beforehand. When we were scheduling this, you gave me the highlights of the 5 things you're going to talk to, but I didn't know really what you're going to say, and so that is very helpful for me, but for other people who are considering this. But on a second level, is I shared with you before the call that my mom was a teacher and how she hated teaching at least the last 15 years of her life. And when she came home that last day, when she retired, she was bawling because she had just retired. And she'd spent 32 years of her life doing something that she really enjoyed doing with the students, but that the administration and the weights of it were just so much that it really crushed the passion, as you spoke about. And so as I was listening to you talk and watching you as you lit up and saying, "Oh, I'm re-experiencing the passion," it just was like, yeah, it gave me a sense of kind of what my mom probably was going through. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It was a fun conversation.
Yes, yes. All right. Thank you, everybody who joined us live. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for joining and thank you for watching. And I will see you next week. Next week, I will have a live. I'm not sure what day it's going to be. I'm going to have a live, and it's going to be me. And I'm going to be talking about, I don't know. I wrote it down this morning, but I don't remember. But it's going to be good. So look out for that invite as well. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.